Oh, why is the soup so fresh and delicious tasting? What's in there? And you can pretend there's no lemon and just be like, turnips. Alright, this is the episode that no one asked for. It's the turnip soup episode. Turnips, it's fall right now, and turnips are very tender, extremely flavorful, and their greens are also just as flavorful. So, it is not the most popular vegetable in the world. It's one that is well established in this household and well appreciated. So, let's celebrate fall with turnip soup. In this extremely flavorful, smoky, chunky soup, there are actually very few ingredients and all very humble ingredients. And that starts off with bacon. Just get right into it. 16 ounces of smoked bacon. And that's how I'm gonna essentially start building flavor into my broth, is with rendering some bacon. This doesn't have to be precious at all. I always get really excited about soups, and I always make everything really chunky, sort of like the whole measure unit here is this spoon. If everything fits on this spoon, this is like, it's the dream soup to me. So bacon is gonna go right into my Dutch oven. Use a nice pot, treat yourself, it's about to be winter, right? So that's going on the stove, over medium high heat. Stirry every now and then, and we're gonna get it nice and crispy and fully rendered. And while that's going, we'll do garlic and turnip tops. Let's start off with the least exciting thing to cut, which is just garlic. I'm gonna do about 8 cloves, which is equivalent to one small head of garlic. And we'll slice that thinly in here. Let's talk about turnips a little bit. These are really nice Japanese turnips, or depending on your farmer, they may be called Tokyo turnips or white turnips. They come with the greens, really lovely. They're just all washed. And I'm gonna do about like 1 bunch. So this may not be necessarily available where you live, but I'm gonna tell you like an actual bunch of beautiful red radishes with the greens on. That's really easy to find in a grocery store. That's a very good substitute. It's got sort of the same peppery flavor, and the greens also have the same sort of bitter aftertaste. I'm going to separate the actual turnips from their greens, because the greens are surprisingly going to cook, or the thing that's going to cook the longest in this recipe. Not very complicated here, we're just going to slice everything. Doesn't need to be very thin. Once again, just fit it on your favorite spoon and you'll be on your way. That's just going to stay right here for now because I can't be bothered to put it in a container. But let's go back to the bacon and keep rendering away. Bacon is fully crispy and rendered. We're not going to remove it. We're going to re-add it basically at the end. But to keep the flavor going, we're going to cook the rest of the soup in bacon fat. Of course, right now there's like a shit ton of bacon fat. We're going to remove about half of it. We'll keep this much. Probably a couple ounces. And then we'll be ready to add the garlic. Garlic is just going in here for toasting. And once it's beautifully toasted, we're going to add some chili flakes. Chili went in, smelling delicious. We're going to add the turnip greens. Just make sure you stir everything so the garlic doesn't stick to the bottom and burn. Add a little salt. And then we'll be ready for our next chopping. So this is going to cook for a little bit of time. And then we'll be able to focus on potatoes, because potatoes are the next thing going in. Stock is going to go in and then potatoes. So I got some Yukon Gold here. Depending on the size of the Yukon Gold, you're going to need about probably 3 cups of diced cucumber. Probably about a pound. So once the turnip greens are fully wilted like this, it's going to be time to add our 8 cups of chicken stock. For the chicken stock, I'm using some stock that I made, which if you haven't watched the video, you should really watch it. It's just a stock that I made using all my meats and veggie scraps in the kitchen. So this stock is now going in and it's still cool, and at that point we'll be adding or diced potato to the cool stock. And we're actually gonna take this potato about 80% of the way. We're gonna take it to the point where it has still a tiny bit of a crunch in the center, where you wouldn't just quite serve it yet. While the potatoes are cooking to about 80% of the way in this flavorful broth, we'll cut the turnips. Oh, don't forget the salt. So it would be very sad to cook potatoes in a not seasoned broth. The turnips are getting cut the same way as the potato. I like that because while you're eating the soup, you never know if you're really getting into, if you're getting into like a potato or a turnip chunk. And if you're getting a turnip chunk, you're just happy. You're just a happy, happy man. To me, a turnip is sort of the perfect mix between like a really delicate potato and an apple. And it's kind of cool to eat like apples of the earth in the fall, because you also eat like real life apples. I don't know, I think it's a romantic way of seeing like the fall.
Do you want to give a little background as to why you're calling them apples of the earth?
Pomme de terre. In French we call potatoes actually apples of the earth. So pomme de terre, the apple of the earth. And it's such a romantic way of calling such a overlooked vegetable. And they do. These turnips do taste like apple of the earth. They're earthy and they're fresh, crispy, juicy. It's been about actually only 10 minutes, very fast, and the potatoes are not quite to the point where you wouldn't make mashed potato with it. They're getting there. So now we're gonna add the turnip. Surprisingly, the actual turnip is the thing that takes the least amount of time to cook in there. Plus it's nice if it has a bit of a, not necessarily al dente. I wouldn't want my turnip al dente, but like not mush mush. Potatoes can be mush, turnip can be almost mush. And then we're also gonna add our bacon bits back. And then we'll keep cooking this until the turnip deliciously, perfectly cooked. And everything's gonna be perfectly cooked, and then we'll just season it and we'll be ready for some soup. It's really beautiful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It makes me feel like a grandmother cooking food that was made to cook. The turnips didn't even take 5 minutes to become to the point where they're delightful. And the soup is done. You get enough soup for like 4 really hungry people or 6 normal people. We'll finish that with, you've guessed it, a whole lemon. This needs it, you know, it's super hearty. And that's just gonna, all your guests are gonna be like, oh, why is the soup so fresh and delicious tasting? What's in there? And you can pretend there's no lemon and just be like, turnips. And then we'll taste for salt. And the, surprisingly, the lemon makes the smokiness come out even more. And then you're ready to go. This is not necessarily like a meat-heavy soup. I think any simple garnishes would go such a long way. I bought herbs. But ends up I don't even think it needs it. Look at it. For this, if you have one nice peppery olive oil, a little drizzle of this is gonna go such a long way. Turnip soup! Really fucking good soup. Chunky, smoky, really good soup. Yeah. Do you wanna eat soup? This is one of those once again, that very humble ingredients with very simple, very effective technique like rendering your bacon, cooking, crisping your garlic in the bacon fat, a little bit of bloom, a little bit of the chili, and then sort of not cook necessarily everything at the same time so that when you get to taste it, it's really just a symphony of flavor and textures in your mouth. So make the turnip soup, buy the turnips at the market, make the turnip soup and let me know how you like it, and like and subscribe. Let's eat some soup.